People in the street chanting boat, 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 boat. From deep in the night, and now it's going on 3 days, and some of them are dropping dead, but they all just chanting it non-stop, boat, 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 and their clothes are just soaked in piss, and they've been crapping their pants for days now, and they're all screaming boat, and I want to die. I did die just after I first said that a few seconds back, and it precipitated the most unusual chain of events. I perished fully off the surface of the earth and hurtled to the flaming gates of hell in under 20 billion Shrekkies. And Devil killed me against I'm not now batty-headed. I came back super burn Mortley. In chid school, my flam fro hard, a bloomwurst weaker drastro, a boy and duboin. Die devil wars volley, that's ramafang on his harder des akkers, hier born burn, just yes like my mommy. Gravel quote made Jamavikus. I dreamed he worst Yumi and Bumi Kranz and Clement Carnario, Clayma Hartford and Guaybe, Clisme Strunora and Nuome, Chris Filthy and Slick Border Rhymes.
People didn't always call me Mr. Semaphore. There was a time before the power of visual transmutation and auditory mortificatory dedification flew out of the pages of my Arnie Stemper's fanfiction and onto my sinewy frame. But ever since that fateful turkey explosion at the Nuclear Poultry Repackaging Committee, where I once was a lowly bellhop, I have had all the powers of a mutant turkey, namely, M is for mutational transmutability. I is for insurmountable strength. S is for sinister? Nope. T is for totally able to auditorily motificate via dedificatory skills. E is for extremely visually transmutationary. And R is for really extraordinary. Arnie Stemper's fanfiction came to life and enveloped my sinewy frame. And my friends had been calling me Semaphore since before I was a baby, so I figured I would combine the two for my superhero name, taking to task any naysayers and gainsaying them with rapid intensity until they felt like, no, because being super extremely mentally ambiguous to people having ordinary reactions is also one of my super D dupe pow-pows. I crept up to the bell hoop, salesmen and trays where customers brought their tickies with straight faces and gay hands from Morquinda the Ticker Lady. She watched sold off trickets. And those unsavvy luffs trapped enough to work there gave the gag secret trick entrance word to get into the dorms where old man Durgans kept his impimps. He mersed grit up birdie oily in dirt morning if he frinkies. He's grit one off of on me. Burkers, I had really most Stranster continuously bended my truth to lie to these guys and flin full twait their horgsish. He had goose radish fever to the point of sunburn and he's fleesh where all was craculin when oi hoped it. I hope it nor ter run into D guy today. Morquindor were a good old dame, always down tea, let you fill her ear with gorsey and tar. Let ya feel her cuppies with alky grog. She was moist proper, and any oiled sack cooed. See that Durkin's rat putter and chowdy fouty weasin'. She ran that ticket dorm booth door like a hem and a clemmin' of buppies. I cried out in joys to see her, and she came over all funny in the face, but quickly screwed on a normal lug and schmoil mask fast enough. I felt a twinge in Mer's soide and a twingle in Mer's scroties, but that weren't nerfing 2-1 wooshul juge dee say. Oi, Morquinder moi booterful womans and the Bostonites, comprastinates, or more dwelders. Mr. Shackington, I have firm reason to believe you are either overdosing on PCP, having a stroke, or stroking out while you OD on PCP. Please speak unto me nothing more other than unto the secret code word, or ye can buy from me one ticket and take your seat. But you're crying and stand here babbling at me lurkies, snurfing to grit done about me head at you. Breakies, oi see fruit, you donkey day, and ye grit brittle basted until he best you self. Bring May.
Ja, I scowled back. Dars we could put a wee bartling Bertram Sean Friath. Dern harv uncool. She lurked respectably at me. I finished off Maine. Dern have unto a Maine. She let me in and there was old man Durkins and he had it a grummel gun. Didn't Frankie see who knew me here with Duisgurn? Yo, I did. A hand's word, as floating vines of fire began to wrap his around Dirk Truck's 40.
What's is frill this harpoonen?
He squealed largely.
What is this?
A wriggled bit of mudget from my world. This is vines, everlasting vines. You can't riddle out worm critters. Is so viney. Drap makes shoes, mine prisonner. He worst named Durkins Birch. He were more like Crudu-Doo-Doo from Proctor Normal. So goofy.
Older man with the tan hands came at me hard, whittling my bones until I struck him aside with a glancing blast from my triple hand cannon. I hit him hard with it, and he blew Avis, and I felt really shaky. So I took him to pepper school, where his bloody guts could be shake and shake for all the takeout and tea time, and I pedaled and pedaled my vapors on the East Coast, bound in bleeding bounty by barnacle braziers, raised in high hog by culinary rope reopeners, hoping for a rebound from the binding crash of 870-70 and 1776. I had bounced from caper to castle until my latest exploit saw me permanently placed in an agitated transom and stand-along scattered showers and glowering saunas and battering hammocks. Dr. Bricklayer beckoned his bursting blood vessels forth, and there arose in the stillness of that profane night a most unseemly howl, emanating as from within. And I swear to you on this notarized filament paper that my parchment ran dry in a flash, as I balked to see his form split open wide, and a tiny serpent filigree that I spent 16 henchmen sanding off, and I threw rotted sandwiches at any who stood in my way, beckoning them to tuber mashups and organized sheet rearrangement development deals, and folded on 16 high-maintenance glass tube Nexus facilities, which stressed me out and porch wrestled my old high school grandma 6 times, which was a lot to stomach on an empty maintenance class. Pod Burke Wessons phoned in and burst up. I saw his point immediately, but still held him in contempt for the slimy road he walked down nightly in my old lawyer's 90. It was one of the worst crimped secrets in Sailor Silo Glistening Service Incorporated. Everyone involved, from the lowest grunt to the highest grunt, knew the whole scene was one big money funnel for the blind in an invisible crust of albacore divestment surgery and half-nanometer scale foundry ticketing scams. We prayed the Sailor Twift could get Maestro Stubbs fees and the Red Griffulator freeze, and even the price for the drainage zoning fees. And before cruel law's first matchstick, we had to gruel about in the snow on our hands and knees with our feet lashed painfully to our impotent Frappuccino moccasin distribution chamber. 7 winters later, I am only beginning to understand the enormous clanking sound from the basement is no fluke, as Minister Withers has beseeched me to believe, but are rather instead a rearing claw of abuse gripping us into a cage formed by its razor talons. Can you believe it? What a harsh lesson life taught me by trying to rip my face clean off. But I learned from what happens, unlike Minister Withers' Cease's head, which is sort of turning even bluer by the minute Burby. Lie burgled the aorta out of a champagne flute and began to toot out all the catchiest tunes, most merriment-making melodiousness, poured forth like the person after third to slice at a seed. And my eyes rolled down into my head, and my optic nerve rolled left into my nasal crypts, and my lungs rolled out over the hills and began to herd bison up and down the prairie bayou. I got in touch with these organs over 55,000 years later at a Diamond Planetarium dedication relief ostrich evaluation parameter warming party when the slicing embankment of soft defecations resulted in corpse dookie all up and down the block, slinging the filth by the bagful until everybody on my street was straight up addicted to his dookie so bad it stank gross. He died, and I killed my bagel at him so he would also have a circle of yuck on his desiccated corpsey warps.
We had no reason to fear the carbuncle mailer. We never bought carbuncles, but apparently the prior resident of our little fixer-downer was a humongous carbuncle collector. We got his mail even though it had been 16 decades since he lived in our house rhymes. I wrote the most Pastor General 4 missives about it in the night, but he must have crumped them by day because no result ever popped out, like a Jake in the box and a bird in the bush. I looked at this latest mailer, an oversized postcard saying, "Your house is condemned and will be fully destroyed shortly after your read this." That's when the doctor faxed to say, "My heavens, you might explode when that..." But he never finished the sentence. I looked in stunned horror at the fax in my hand as it depicted the doctor being flattened into juice instantaneously via massive battering ram wrecking ball thing that came in through the clinic walls. I frowned in concentration. Why did that seem to remind me of something? I strapped on my jetpack and flew up through a suddenly opening hole in my roof. Soon I was above the clouds, the sun shining on my naked feet, and crying to the heavens about the loss of my doctor. "How do we move on from here?" my dead doctor asked. I shrugged. "No idea, poopy," I bellowed, deploying my lethal level multi-taser in mid-flight, and he started absolutely pouring dookie out his pants onto the village 40,000 feet below as the fatal jolt shocked his body rock out the sky. Soon he were in a pretty pulling freefall, and the still stuck in heme prongs from the taste were pulling me drown rippet. Bleasel beer, I started charping hoff blennies and lemmies and stone all deep pre-pulls where it's deep burp me. Oi, please stooning deem riff bullets till deadies and ack Strasselbert Almer Fwens is deaded erp and breeded erp and broiled and froy-eat and nardy deady.
I became an article of clothes for the first time in the summer of 1976. I burned a hole in my own ozone layer, and since that rather arbitrary origin story, I've had the power to turn into dungarees or bibs and stuff. It's not that great, but I mean, like, what the hell superpower do you have? Anyway, people are always like, "Do you turn into bras and panties all the time? What sickos? What absolute pigs?" And then I became a Christmas tree for the 7th time in January. Thank Hampton. Fire on my mind and crashing seatbelt budgets on the brain. I had just been named Shackle Adventurer of the Year, back when that still felt like it meant something to people, but I had no downtime to bask in my accomplishment. How human were my branches? Oh, Tannenbaum. Shortly after a resumption of my human frame, I looked on in helpless silence as the ornaments that once stabbed through my skin crashed to the floor and shattered in an endless wave. I once again sang a soulful shriek to the skies. I tried turning into a t-shirt to calm down, but it was nothing but opening salvo. I couldn't stand taking a dire leak on the beak and poked a whole donut of parking reform and banking interventionist revisions in the source code. An all-nighter ensued, established in state law by a federal bird, and thus questioned in the courts, but that's when Shredder Macnell Frasty worked him, and he clammed up purdy quickies at that. Mork Melody stickers, quickie, and snip snap chomped ortma, and Brit did learn. Breed had snappy tweef and our words like, "Oh snap, on breed bitted me word."
I started taking notes. You started quaking oats. We gotta get hauling boats back to the shore before Flamethrower Joe finds our geotacking gym.
He's gonna Pokemon go to the gun dealership and Pokemon come back and blurst us.
I bet over 500 doll castles into a garish isododecahedron, and I pled with his Versar for a reduction. But I cloyed him over much with wanton sentimentality and furiously declared me maudlin. I will not stand here and be insulted by you when I could violently attack you with a chair-equipped hacksaw. I picked up the nearest chair and destroyed all the stocks in the world with it, and he tugged over out of scares. I didn't relent, casting the chair-equipped hacksaw aside, spent of its munitions. and whipped out what looked to be an ordinary hacksaw, but in true fact was an hacksaw with a detachable chair, and I beat him over to he head for eat. Moidul must frill hath been in etude cremated, Niao trust try me to vestor guate, whom divum rusties dernus watch all our frill awful fringes flingle, boardly bwangles, he's at terse which flimortgo, woo poured, we pulled, glem brood broad, gui, words, warp brummels and heavy hove, quavy quammer oil, keep quassing go russies and ruzzles and fruzzles and frozles and foo. Flume, wassets and creeters and weaver braddies, loist and wirelers and hurt my freeze, heal my freeze.